Well, 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 well. Netflix Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Before I talk about this movie, like always, I'll give you my experience with the franchise. I'm a big fan of horror, although I didn't watch all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. And believe it or not, the first movie of the franchise that I have ever seen was the one with the ones with Michael Bay in the name. What was it? Platinum Dunes version of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I watched it on a friend's house, and I do remember being disturbed. I remember that this is probably one of the first most violent movies I have ever seen. And I did watch the beginning on movie theaters, and honestly, I still hold up to this day a little bit of kind of like a guilty pleasure on the Michael Bay Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. And this is something out of me because Michael Bay is not exactly kind of a guy that I trust 100%. I lost trust on him ever since I watched those horrible Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies. But this is another story. I'm talking about my story with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Then weirdly enough, I heard about the original. I wanted to watch it, but unfortunately I had kind of like a hard time finding it because it was during that time in which the internet wasn't as big, and also the video stores didn't, at least in my country, didn't have that movie. It was only one rental place that well, no, it wasn't a rental place. Television decided to show that movie, and I decided to watch it. But unfortunately, it wasn't the original. It was actually the Next Generation. If you don't know, it's the one with Matthew McConaughey overacting. This one's still also a little bit of a guilty pleasure because this is one of those few moments in which you see McConaughey overact, and it's amazing. And then finally when YouTube became popular, I finally found a way to watch it. And then lo and behold, then the rental place had it, and I finally went to watch the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's funny how backwards I went into discovering these movies. And lo and behold, I love it. I actually love the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It kind of became one of the most grittier movies I have seen. So much that I became kind of like a sneaky little devil. And I showed this movie to one of my co-workers during my part-time job. And man, that she was absolutely naive to the whole movie. She didn't know about it. But the moment Leatherface popped up for the first time to, give his hammer kill, she was so scared that she just ran to the bathroom. That was kind of like a sadistic delight for me. But so yeah, I am well aware a little bit of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. I must admit also that I never saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I know about its story. And then of course I did watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. And boy, that this movie was awful. that was an awful movie that it tried so hard to hide the date, but still kind of come up saying that, oh yeah, this is a sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I know there's the Leatherface series. I never watched it. I heard people that it's not worth it. And now we are here in 2022 where I only knew about this movie, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022, which I'm gonna call it like that. I only knew about this movie because I was watching streaming. There were some some movie lovers that they were discussing some pop culture stuff, and they were talking about their disdain to that movie. They were complaining about the trailer. They were showing like, oh, this looks awful, and in ways, well, I was kind of like, okay, I do agree and all these things. I still was curious enough to watch it. And man, if this is just me, just coming up because yesterday, and I mean yesterday, I just came from watching Uncharted. I already made a video out of it just in case, and to make it quick, yeah, it was a below average movie for me. But either way, I was open-minded enough to watch just a dumb horror movie because honestly, where will you go after seeing the tone and cinematography and all the things that you want to do with the franchise ever since Texas Chainsaw 3D? They didn't even make a sequel out of it. I don't even remember if I watched it with the 3D glasses because honestly, I don't think that it could have worked. And lo and behold, I finally watched the Netflix movie, and my final thoughts about it is that while I will give it credit that while it is slightly, but I mean slightly better than Texas Chainsaw 3D, it wasn't a good movie. No, it's as stupid as you could ever get, and but in a way, I kind of wish that this movie was even stupider because it had the elements to even make it cringeworthy, but it didn't. It didn't. So there are ways that you find that it was pretty lame on its writing. It's so much that it became kind of like a poor-made horror movie, which honestly I wouldn't mind usually in these kind of slasher movies. But in a way, I kind of wish that this movie could have been worse. I wish I could be kind of like, oh my god, this is the stupidest thing ever. And it half does it, but I wish it could amplify its stupidity, at least because it will make it more memorable or enjoyable. Although this thing has some, there are some nice things that I could say it. But either way, I will tell that while I go for this film. So okay, Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022. This one, just like Texas Chainsaw 3D, it wants to play out like this is this kind of like the direct sequel to the original. Because how many times did they do that? They did it with Chainsaw 2, which I never saw, but I know the idea. They did it last time, and now this time again. So they pull out Halloween remake. But of course, we have to center on our new victims. This time is these kind of like group of internet celebrity YouTubers, something like that. Those internet people that they say that, hey, we are going into this ghost town that kind of looks like the abandoned set of Heaven's Gate. they go, or you know what? Actually, now that I think about it, it actually more looks like the abandoned set of that House of Wax movie that starred Paris Hilton. So anyway, they go there and they say that they just want to redecorate it to make it kind of like their own town, and so basically these are kind of like this group of idealistic people. So much that I even wrote one of their line. One of them kind of say that we are idealistic individuals who want to build a better world. No, seriously, that's a line in that movie. But basically, these people go into this abandoned town, of course, and then they find out that one of the houses, there lives an old lady, and of course the giant big man himself, Leatherface. But of course, nobody knows that he is. She lives in this abandoned orphanage, and and these people, they say that, hey, we got paper, you have to get out of the house because this is ours and all these things. And trust me that all this conflict just started because they wanted to remove a Confederate flag that is on that orphanage. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. These people get offended because they see this tatter of Confederate flag into it. I'm not going to go into the political aspect into it, but you kind of get the idea that these guys were like, well, we had to remove it and all these things. But of course, because they were convincing this woman to get out of the house, even call the sheriff for all this, the woman becomes sick because she's on oxygen support. And during the way in the hospital, she dies in the arms of course, the big man. And of course, because if the big man is Leatherface himself, he decides to take revenge and of course, kill off all these, well, for lack of better words, millennials. So yeah, that's basically the simple plot that I have with this one. Just Leatherface killing off a bunch of annoying people that of course it makes the usual thing that most of these low-grade slasher films does, in which you get annoyed by these people and you just want them to get killed. These people are not exactly likable. They're all, whiny, they're full of themselves. Sometimes you see that they're just they're just kind of like self-righteous in their own way. They even say it. You even see that that they say they're gonna go say that we're idealistic people built for a better world, but once they see a Confederate flag, they're like, ew, this has to go. And they weren't too polite with this old lady. Well, you get the idea. Not much I have to say. What I'm gonna name some of these characters. Usually the protagonists are mostly centered on these two sisters. Well, one of them played by Sarah Jarkin, and the other one Elsie Fisher. The best way I can say about these characters is that these are, again, not very likable. They're kind of like sisters that they're kind of like angry at each other. One of them, who you're sure that is going to be the protagonist, she's saying that, well, I just survived a school shooting. I have a bullet here. And you think that this is going to come up with some kind of story arc into her? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The other one is kind of black. There's another, of course, there's kind of like the other guy who he's called Dante. He's also not likable. There's also people just being a meat grinder. There's another guy who is kind of like the tough guy, and boy, I had suspicion about this tough guy who. What was it? The guy played by Mon Doomford. I thought that he's gonna last long, but he didn't. Because I thought he was gonna be kind of like the badass of the group, but he wasn't. Like usual, I have to commend the guy who plays Leatherface because, well, it's not exactly very hard to play Leatherface. You have to get the right physique for it and don't need to talk. And, well, he plays it well. But there's also one thing that you also have to know. Is that the movie also wants to play a Halloween reboot. Because they brought back Sally, the survivor from the first movie. And what is she now? She's basically kind of like a farmer, and she's been looking for Leatherface, and now that she gets a radio communications about the whereabouts of this guy, she just decides to, okay, I'm gonna have my revenge to avenge my friends. And this character is as shallow as you can think. It's not as well developed as Laurie Strode in that Halloween reboot. She just kind of just dares and then making stupid decisions and making her kind of like even more unlikable. But in my mind, it's like, woman, why are you searching this guy? Isn't it enough for you to survive this? Because honestly, if I was her in that situation, if I heard, like, for example, the Leatherface is there, oh shit, I'm gonna move 10 cities far away from this guy. Alright, let me talk about the cinematography, because this is mostly the part that I am a little bit more kind to this movie, because I might have made fun about the ghost town looking like like a set and all these things, but the composition is actually not that bad. It looks as good as it is. Although there is a little bit of kind of like an unintentional funny shot, mostly you see it in the trailer where you see Leatherface popping out from the sunflowers, and he looked like this, and that was kind of like unintentionally hilarious. But either way, some of the grime and some of the sets, it's well done. I'm not gonna lie on that thing. It could have been a little bit better, although I'm not gonna give technically my hopes up because this is a movie that just came on streaming. Probably those streaming movies, they don't have kind of like enough budget for it. Low, of course, that's the price you pay for these kind of movies. And well, of course, that we also obviously have to say about the killings, in which honestly, they're not as, how can I say, as memorable as you could say, except for probably one. Which is honestly the kind of like the one that is goofier. It actually starts out goofy, but then it kind of comes up as probably, I would say, the highlight of the movie. And you saw it in the trailer. It's with the one where Leatherface enters the enters this bus full of millennials, and all the millennials, they just go like like, oh. Yeah, I'm not joking. The first, I mean, look. I don't think that once you see a big muscle-bound man carrying a chainsaw, wearing the skin of a victim on its face, I don't think that your first instinct is to pick up your smartphone and make a live stream video out of it, or take pictures or whatever. Just run! And you're gonna end up watching the whole scene of everyone in the bus except for our protagonists. Well, you'll see everyone getting butchered by Leatherface. And everyone goes just like, ah, let me out, tapping on the window and all these things. But in my mind, it's like, run! You could try, just run past him while he cuts another person. I don't know. I wasn't in that situation. God knows. I wish I never go into that situation. Nobody should be in that situation. But either way, oh my God. So yeah, this is probably kind of like the most memorable death because this one it actually involves mostly the chainsaw. And of course, you also get, of course, Leatherface killing other, how can I say, with the, with the usual hammer and all these things. And now I'm gonna jump out to some of the elements in which, something that I have to mention is that Leatherface in this movie is basically a tank. Remember that on Halloween Kills, I kind of mentioned that Michael Myers easily could have been an anime supervillain because no matter how much you throw at him, it never dies. So apparently Leatherface, we know that Leatherface was strong, but my God, that he's super strong, he's super inhuman, he has the strength of Jason Voorhees, or Michael Myers again. Again, apparently being a killer gives you super strength. He was strong enough to break a guy's hand, just twisting like he was a cookie. So man, that's how strong he is. And yeah, he gets shotgun in parts of the body, but of course never died. But at least to the credit, at least they shot this guy on the the shoulder and all these things. This shows how stupid these people can get in these slasher films. When you have a shotgun, it's much more clear. It's much more guaranteed that you can kill someone by shooting them in the head. And nobody with a gun managed to shoot Leatherface in the face. Oh my God, I'm kind of ranting some of the stupid things that happen in this movie. And, oh my God, I kind of need kind of like a small moment to think more. Sorry, I did have to give myself a little bit of a minute to put my, how can I say, my mind in order, because there's, how can I say, this movie, the more I think about it, it gets kind of like dumber and dumber. And I think I did say at the beginning of the vlog that I kind of wish that this movie was kind of like more stupider. Well, in a way, is that when I think about that this movie wanted to make, how can I say, some self-righteous millennials just trying to repopulate this ghost town, and can be kind of like the city people moving into a rural area to form their own town and all these things. But of course they're not exactly that kind of people. I kind of wish that it was kind of turned a little bit of a more sarcastic or goofier tone out of it, with Leatherface in it. Yeah, the chances is that the movie's gonna flop and it's gonna have horrible reviews, but at least that's gonna have it become a little bit more memorable. Now that I think about it, I think Chainsaw Massacre 2 was goofier in tone compared to the original. Obviously, I kind of wish that it was a little bit more like that. But anyway, yeah, I did mention some of the carnage was actually okay, except the one in the bus that actually this one probably is one of the most memorable good kills that I can think about this movie. And I did mention about the sister's character that they all kind of like bicker between each other, and they wanted to bring out that our protagonist kind of has this subplot saying that she was on a school shooting, but honestly, that is badly written in which the whole situation doesn't that it doesn't it doesn't come up into the movie for it comes up for no reason. Let's say it's just kind of like saying that okay, we have this character who has been shot and all these things, but okay, so but what does it contribute to the movie? It's not like Leatherface it is carrying an assault rifle or something like that. And conveniently enough, there is an assault rifle that I'm not gonna say much about it, but let's say that this one becomes a red herring that it was kind of stupidly hilarious. And also the other convenient plot that they wanted to bring out is of course Sally returning to having her revenge on Leatherface. Although I don't know why they couldn't find the guy in 50 years now that I think about it. I mean, she escaped with some pickup truckers that they got her. So the least that could have happened at that moment, at least I would give it credit to Chainsaw Massacre 3D, that at least the sheriffs and the police appear into the infamous house, and they just begin to shoot them. Because right in the moment that this woman said, hey, there is these crazy people who tried to kill me and they killed off my friends. Please, go get them, arrest them. So, what happened? What happened? Why? It's almost like she didn't notify about it. Oh wait, they did. She did notify it because you're in the beginning you see even footage from the first movie, almost like it was a documentary, and there is even a guy who is even selling T-shirts about this whole event, almost like you're watching a kind of like a you know one of these tourist attractions, almost like the Museum of Death. So why nobody catch this guy? Maybe they tried, but with a guy who has the strength of Superman, they couldn't catch him. Well, now that the more I think about it, it's even more stupider. Oh my god. It's really hard. Now that I think about it, it is indeed really hard to make a new, a sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. At this point, I can welcome a reboot or a remake of a future Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, so yeah, she was. So basically, Sally was kind of pointless in this one because she's even as lunatic as Leatherface. And guess what? You know what? I don't care if I spoil it. Leatherface doesn't even recognize her. He's like that. I don't care. And now that I think about it, Sally was kind of like one step away from becoming the kind of like the villainous sheriff from the second Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I heard about it. I saw clips from the Cinematography, but the closest I can think of is kind of like almost becoming the quote unquote villain from the Devil's Rejects. I mean that, and I know they wanted to make it a little bit like their Halloween reboot with the return of Laurie Strode, but at least Laurie Strode cared for the welfare of her family and all these things. Not like Sally, that she's like, oh, you're gonna stay because you're gonna become bait and all these things. Oh man. So yeah, this character again is totally wasted. You know what? I'm not gonna bother you on giving spoiler alert in this case, because honestly, this is something that you have to know for yourself, but I have to talk about it. Okay, spoiler alert, but I'm not gonna put my usual warning. Is that, yeah, it usually ends up, with with the usual sisters, and making peace with themselves. They battle Leatherface, and they shoot him like many times with a shotgun, and they finish it up with an uppercut with the chainsaw, with his own chainsaw. And just when the girls are finally saying, well, happy ending, he's done, let's go to Austin. You know what? I'm not gonna drive. I'm gonna put the car in autopilot. And then they pull out a Nightmare on Elm Street remake, in which Leatherface, still alive, grabs one of the sisters. It decapitates her, while the sister is like, no, while the car in autopilot goes, kind of, mimicking the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And of course, Leatherface gives out, the infamous, his usual, dance, the chainsaw dance, and the movie ends. At that point, I was kind of like laughing my ass off. I was laughing because despite being shot so many times and having an upper chainsaw on his jaw, he is still alive. And guess what? This movie also has a post-credit scene in which Leatherface returns to the old house. Nothing more, nothing less. That movie was stupid. Totally stupid. But I can't stay angry at it, because there's some things that I can give it credit. But still, like, it's dumb. At least it was consistent on his timeline, at least, for some reason. Even though at that moment, I don't know how Leatherface, being, now older, he's still, that big and that strong. So anyway, okay. Do I recommend it? Not really. I can only recommend it for people who are just curious about how the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie goes. It's obviously a bad slasher movie, but honestly, I will say that Chainsaw Massacre 3D was worse, and honestly, not. That's all I have to say about this movie. It was just what it is. Just a dumb slasher movie that only capitalized on Texas Chainsaw Massacre.